Welcome to Cardinals Cover 2 with Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki. Cardinals Cover 2 is brought to you by Arizona Cardinals Podcasts. Visit azcardinals.com/podcasts. From the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center, here's Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki.
Well, you like a challenge, MJ?
Yeah.
You like to be challenged, either currently or back in the day, you know, when you were lighting it up on the baseball field?
Yeah, I'm usually, have self-motivation, but sometimes it's good to be challenged.
I get the sense, just from the way the team is acting, how they're speaking, that they are up for this challenge. And it is, make no mistake about it, a challenge on Sunday, regardless of how well the Chiefs are playing. Arrowhead Stadium, a difficult place to play. That's one. Two, the Chiefs, the number one team in the NFL. But I don't sense any, I don't want to say fear, but I don't sense that they're going in defeated already. I mean, yes, there's not a lot of people expecting the Cardinals to win in Kansas City, and if they do, it will be the biggest upset of the season. Yet it takes 11 guys in order to get the job done, offense, defense, special teams, and as they say, you play the game on the field, not on paper.
Well, I really think, and I asked Coach Wilkes this today, just the fact that they've only played one game in 23 days. So when we get to Sunday, it'll be 23 days, only one game. And they benefited from playing on a Thursday night against the Broncos. Unfortunately, that didn't go the way they wanted or the way we wanted it to. And then they obviously had their bye week. So not only did it allow them to get recover from injuries, and we're going to get into the injury report today, but for the most part, the 5 starters on the offensive line will make their appearance. And the last time we had all 5 starting was in week 6. So from that standpoint, Craig, and then they kind of went back to the drawing board and did a little self-evaluation. Coaching staff, that normally happens during your bye week. Some teams have had a bye week in week 5.
Yes.
So the last couple of years, the Cardinals have been very lucky to get it right in the middle of the season. You don't want it too late and you don't want it too early. You can never forecast it. When the schedule comes out, you look at that. So, we knew the second half was going to be tough, and I think they're up for the challenge just from a standpoint of, they don't pay attention to the point spread, and there's a reason why they play the game. And listen, the Buffalo Bills, who we know are having a hard time scoring, even worse than the Cardinals were in those first couple of weeks, they were a 17.5-point underdog. They went there and beat them. They didn't win on a last-second field goal. They controlled the game from start to finish. Josh Allen played really well in that game. And that's the reason why you play the game. I mean, we could sit here and break it down sideways and go, on paper, the Kansas City Chiefs have a better roster. Now, on Sunday, are they going to commit 2 or 3 turnovers? Are the Cardinals going to get a pick 6? Are they going to get a kickoff return for a touchdown or a punt return for a touchdown? That's how you have to beat a team like this. So you cannot afford turnovers. You get in the red zone, you got to score touchdowns.
Yeah, the Cardinals certainly know what awaits them on Sunday, and they're very much looking forward to testing themselves against the best. How do they measure up? Have they gotten better since week 1? Talking about the Cardinals as we take off here on this Football Friday, and here's what's ahead on the show. We'll tell you the milestone that Larry Fitzgerald may reach this week, should reach this week.
May? Hopefully he gets it by the first half.
Maybe the first catch?
Fine with me.
Then it's off to Kansas City. We get to know your enemy and, of course, your questions via social media using the hashtag CardsCover2 with the number 2 to get involved in the show. We do that every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday here on Cards Cover 2. All that ahead, but first, the news of the day, and let's start with the injury report. Head coach Steve Wilkes rolled out 2 players. Chad Williams, the wide receiver, and defensive tackle Robert Kimdichie, neither one of those will play. We'll get to what that may mean for the Cardinals on Sunday in a bit, but the good news for the Cardinals, safety Budda Baker, who missed Thursday's practice because of a foot issue, moved around well today in practice and is expected to play, according to Coach Wilkes. Safety Trey Boston, who has been on the injury report for a few weeks now and actually missed the past 2 games, he's expected back as well. And then, as MJ noted, that all 5 starters on the offensive line expected to be on the field together again for the first time since week 6. So that is all good news. But with regards to the 2 players that are out, we'll start with Chad Williams, because that was your number 3, 4 wide receiver, depending on how you want to look at it. But it does not look like, it is. He's not going to go. So how do the Cardinals now kind of figure out what to do without one of their weapons?
Yeah, if you go back to the depth chart, and I know it's basically in crayon. In this case, it's in sand. It's in pencil. He's still listed as a number 2 wide receiver, and that goes back to training camp. And really, and you pointed it out, not only was Christian Kirk number 2, but you can make the case he's number 1. Maybe Larry passed him last week, but hey, it's a good dilemma to have a 1 and 1A. And we kind of knew Chad was going to be out just because he wasn't on the practice field. And if you follow the team long enough as we have, you can see where their progress is when they're rehabbing on the side. And are they limited? Are they full go? So not a surprise. Kemdichi, to me, disappointing from a standpoint of, he had some time off, and obviously he must have re-aggravated the foot. And, it's just, again, they need him out there. But if he's injured versus hurt, they're going to rely on their doctors and trainers because they need him. He's part of that rotation. So now, between Rodney Gunter and Olsen Pierre and Corey Peters, that's going to have to be the rotation now. So that's a little disappointing. I thought maybe he just needed some rest, but unfortunately he's out for Sunday's game. And now that, you're going to have to put pressure. But the good news here today is it's huge to me because the reason why I mentioned this, Budda Baker missed practice yesterday, precautionary. He was back on the field, as you pointed out. It looked fine to us when he was running some of the drills. But I think between him and Hassan Reddick, they're going to draw the assignment on Travis Kelce. So they could bracket him. They could play zone. They could play man-to-man. I anticipate Peterson's going to be on Tyreek Hill, and then we'll see how they divide it up in the secondary. So the fact that Budda's good to go and Hassan Reddick has definitely made strides, and I think he has the speed to cover Travis Kelce. Now, size-wise, Kelce's a little bit bigger than both of those players. And, Mahomes sometimes has a tendency to overthrow, but sometimes he'll try to put it right in your breadbasket. So I think it's huge that Budda Baker, and I consider Budda Baker one of the top 5 players on defense.
Yeah, and Boston's return as well. We could very well see that 4-2-5 that the Cardinals have used predominantly this season. The loss of Williams may open up a spot for Kendall Wright to be active on Sunday. Coach Wilkes wouldn't commit to that, of course, because you have no idea what's going to happen between now and Sunday. And then, of course, special teams plays a role. So if it's not right, then perhaps Trent Sherfield moves up the depth chart as far as offensively, and we might see him as a wide receiver. Yeah. Or there's the other option of David Johnson as well.
Yeah, normally they dress 4 on game day. Fitz, Kirk. You start looking at Sherfield and then J.J. Nelson. And I know the fan base is down on J.J. Nelson, and trust me, there's frustration on both sides. He's frustrated, they're frustrated, but you still have to respect his speed. And again, you're going to say, well, what matters if he can't catch the football? I get that. You still got to show it. When he breaks the huddle, you have to be aware of he's at on the field, and maybe he gets a pass interference call. So it's not ideal, and that means, a guy like Chad Williams and Kendall Wright, we know that Chad's out. He wasn't didn't sound like he was optimistic, and I'm just connecting the dots. You're right. They discussed this on Saturday night. We get the inactives 90 minutes before kickoff. So the main thing is that JJ does play on teams. Yes. Trent Sherfield plays on teams. Chad Williams plays on teams. Kirk plays on teams. So if you're a backup in this league, you got to play on special teams.
So something to pay attention to on Sunday. Also on Sunday, you'll see something that we haven't seen in a while, and maybe a little bit of a historic announcement from the Cardinals on Friday, and that is concerning Sunday's uniform combination. White jerseys, red pants. First time since December 19th, 2010. And as the Arizona Cardinals Twitter account at AZ Cardinals noted, Josh Rosen in 2010 hadn't started high school yet. That's how long it has been since the Cardinals wore white on red.
Yeah, I think Brandon, who's going to join us today, coming up.
Who?
Brandon's going to join us, and he said, I think Josh was, 13 years old?
Yeah. Wow. It's a long time ago. Again, it's some care about the uniform combinations, some don't. But
well, I want to see the red on red. Maybe we'll see it for Christmas Eve.
People do that. They typically do that in December around Christmas.
I had no idea. I don't pay attention to that kind of
either.
stuff, and I get it from the fan base because for home games they want to wear the same jersey. I get that. But people are really interested in the combo of the uniform. And matter of fact, speaking of Arrowhead and Kansas City, the Cardinals, the Bird Gang Travel Club.
Yeah, you were telling me about this yesterday.
They're bringing over 70 fans. Actually, they showed me their itinerary. If we were there, we were invited.
Oh, that's good to know.
That's right.
Appreciate that.
So I think they picked 2 games this year. This weekend and the Packers game. And that's one's going to be in December on the road, obviously. So Cardinal fans are representing. They're going there for barbecue, but they have a great itinerary over the next 3 days. A lot got arrived yesterday, and a lot are arriving today. So there'll be some Cardinal fans at the game on Sunday.
Craig Riolu and Mike Jurecki here on Cards Cover 2. Let's dive into this matchup on Sunday. It is Week 10 for the Cardinals, and, of course, a lot of talk all week long about the Chiefs' offense. We're going to start this discussion, though, about the Chiefs' defense because the numbers, at least on paper, you look at the number of points that they've allowed, over 25 a game, the number of yards they've allowed as far as both the passing and the rushing. But if you talk to the Cardinals, and specifically quarterback Josh Rosen, a lot of those numbers, at least to Rosen when he looks at the film, a little bit misleading.
I think a lot of those numbers are a little bit deceiving because, I mean, they're up by like 30 in half their games. So a lot of the times they're just kind of just playing back, they let the offense do what they want to do, try to bend, not break, holding field goals. So, I mean, I think they're like 32nd in pass defense, but I don't think you should read into that at all. They're a very good football team with a really good defense. I think a lot of that's just because their offense is scoring so many points.
And the point he makes is a good one because most of the games for the Chiefs, it's decided by the first half, fourth quarter, and, of course, you're playing prevent, so all of a sudden the numbers get escalated in the fourth quarter as far as the opponent is concerned. The one thing that the Chiefs do very well, though, defensively is they get after the quarterback. Their 26 sacks are fourth best in the league.
And I wonder why.
And then
they're playing with the lead.
Exactly, and you know exactly what the opponent is going to do.
Pin your ears back, go after the quarterback, force him to turn the ball over.
And they're very good on third down. They're number 4 in the league on third down defense. So it's a little bit, a little bit misleading. We'll get into this a little bit later on when we head to Kansas City in the Know Your Enemy segment of the show. But just because the numbers are what they are and they're very skewed as far as specifically the yards, over 400 yards a game they've allowed, you can move the football on this team. You can score points, but can you score enough points? That's always the thing.
All right, this is their scoring by quarters, and we talk about scripted plays. And sometimes coaches will do 12, they'll do 15, they'll do 18. And I was told that Bruce Arians had 3 game plans going into each game, and he would not wait till halftime to make adjustments. If he saw something early on, he would go to his second game plan. Then if something else at halftime, he'd go to his third game plan. I don't know if they do that, but obviously Matt Nagy, and I thought Kyle Odegaard asked a great question yesterday to the coordinators about, including Al Holcomb, because I was thinking high-powered offense, is it similar to the Rams? You look at the quarterback position, Goff's making strides, Mahomes has made strides. The running back, I would give Gurley the edge, but it's close. You look at the wideouts, the offensive line. But because of Matt Nagy spent time with Andy Reid, the Bears and Mitchell Trubisky run more of a variation what the Chiefs do. So here's their scoring per quarters, scripted plays.
For the Chiefs.
82 in the first quarter, 91 in the second quarter. They come out at halftime and score 92 in the third. And, oh, by the way, in the fourth quarter, because they're protecting a lead, they only score 62 points. So they scored 327 points this year.
And getting off to a quick start is key for the Cardinals because we talk about first possessions. And the Chiefs offensively on first possessions have scored 6 touchdowns and 2 field goals with just 1 punt on those 9 first possessions. Defensively, they've only allowed 1 field goal. And all of a sudden, now you're wondering why this Chiefs team is so good and they're playing with the lead for so long. It's that first possession of the ball game, whether on offense or defense, they're either not allowing you to score or they themselves are getting off to a 7-0 lead.
All right, you and I have been looking at the numbers all week, and again, I think of them as the Rams, not the Bears, just because of personnel. Of all the numbers you mentioned, what's the most impressive stat?
For the offense?
Either or.
Oh, it's the points per game.
See, I was going to go with the coin toss.
They are 9-0 on coin tosses.
What's their chances of getting it on Sunday?
That was like a less than 1/2 of 1%.
No, it's 50%.
Well, on Sunday, yes, but to continue this streak, it's amazing.
Cardinals got a 50% chance of winning the coin toss.
Yes, they do. Heads or tails?
Are they going to defer?
By the way, it's a 12 game coin toss streak for the Chiefs if you go back to the preseason. The other thing the Cardinals have to worry about on Sunday is the stadium itself. Arrowhead Stadium, a very tough place to play, a very loud place to play. Chiefs are undefeated at home, 21-4 over their last 25 games at Arrowhead Stadium. But for Byron Leftwich, he enjoys that atmosphere.
Yes, I mean, from a noise standpoint, I played there before, and I'm trying to get Josh ready for that. It's going to be a fun, loud place to play. And with the history that you have in that place, it's a fun place to play. I mean, every time I've had the opportunity to walk in that stadium, I left, win, lose, or draw, I left like, man, this was a heck of an experience. And this is where you grow from. He can grow from that experience. We know it's going to be a hostile environment. We know what we're going up against. But like I said, we believe in trusting our team, trusting the offense, trusting the defense, trusting the special teams. That's what this football thing's all about, getting everybody on the same page and becoming family. And that's what we're trying to do. We know we got a good football team. We'll prepare ourselves the best we can, and we'll see.
All right, normally the Cardinals, when they're going to any place on the road, just because they're the opponent, they pump in crowd noise during the week. Now, we're sitting at our cubicles after the open portion of practice, and I'm hearing this music. It was the Tomahawk Chop.
That the Atlanta Braves do, Florida State Seminoles do?
Yes.
Okay.
And the Chiefs.
It can get a little annoying, too, if you're sitting there watching it on television, the Chiefs, Braves, and Seminoles.
That's right, the Braves. I forgot about that. Yeah, you're right.
Back when they were good.
But normally the Cardinals just pump in crowd noise.
Yes.
Today they went even further to emulate what happens in the stadium at Arrowhead.
And you talk to players on either side of the ball. In fact, Rosen brought it up before going to Minnesota that as an opponent, the best thing to do is silence the crowd, whether that's with a score or if you're on defense, a big interception, a fumble, or a big sack or a big play, to all of a sudden where you've got 50, 60, 70,000 people and all of a sudden they go dead quiet. I mean, to them, that is the joy sometimes more so than winning at home. It's silencing the road crowd.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is you just can't fall behind against these guys because you're playing catch-up at that point. And then, as you mentioned, and we've talked about it all week, I mean, Dee Ford, I don't think he gets the credit he deserves because they got so much firepower on offense, and rightfully so. But Dee Ford, he's been a really good draft pick. I know that they moved on from some of their linebackers. But Bob Sutton, if you're not familiar with him, he's a really good defensive coordinator. He's been there a while. Now, when I mentioned bend but don't break, yeah, teams are able to go from the 20 to the 20, but they've done a really good job when you get in the red zone where really forcing you to field goals, not touchdowns.
The Dee Ford, by the way, leads the Chiefs with 8 sacks. Chris Jones, on the other side, has a sack in 5 straight games. So as much as we talk about the offense, don't forget about the Chiefs' defense as well. It is a Friday, a football Friday. It is also a Fitz Friday, hashtag Fitz Friday. And let's hear from number 11 as his weekly session with the media on Thursday. And, of course, this could be a huge game for Larry Fitzgerald personally. Of course, getting Fitz to talk about himself is never easy, but he stands 33 receiving yards away from passing Terrell Owens for number 2 all-time on the NFL's receiving yardage list. That was brought to Fitz's attention. Not that he didn't already know it, but that was brought to his attention on Thursday.
Honestly, I don't really look at it, Bob. Honestly, man. I'm just happy that I get to be around you for another 8 weeks. It's been an enjoyable 15 years to be with you, man. We're gonna miss you around these parts. Yeah, it didn't have the effect that I thought it would have. Yeah, he actually was pretty emotional about it. I felt pretty bad after, to be honest with you. So I want to apologize to him for that, for putting him in that position. But we work past our differences as a family, and he'll be there for me in Oakland when we play the Raiders next weekend.
What do you think about the cool uncle calling the game, B.A.? What do you think about B.A. in the booth?
I'm really looking forward to seeing Coach Arians. You know, I talk to him at least once a week. Obviously when you done what we did here, over the 50 wins in 5 years, I mean, you develop some strong relationships with guys, and he was great to work for.
By the way, Fitz, the apology was to his son Devin. If everyone remembers, after San Francisco, Devin wasn't in attendance. The spike was out of frustration because Devin wasn't there, and I guess apparently Devin felt bad about it since Fitz called him out publicly.
I was able to find out that wasn't the first game he's missed.
I'm guessing all of it was tongue in cheek.
Yes. I mean, he was at the fair. He spent the night before at the fair, so he wanted to be at the fair with his cousins and his friends. But ever since Devin's been born, he's 10 years old now. He's only missed 4 games in his entire young career or young life.
That's a pretty solid ratio right there. That's a 10-year NFL career right there for young Fitzgerald. By the way, Fitz should be noted, quote, feeling better physically, unquote, which is a good thing because, yes, he did miss practice on Wednesday, but it was non-injury related. This is the first time, because I went back, first time since week 2. He's been on the injury report due to a various, hamstring, whatever, knee, basically whatever you want to put in there, since week 3. So this is the first time that he has been not listed with an injury on the injury report.
Yeah, when I talk about 1 game in 23 days, those older guys, Corey Peters and Larry Fitz.
You call him Fitz old?
Well, he's 35. It's his 15th year.
He's younger than I am.
Right, but we're not playing football.
Okay.
Anyway, so you could see last game, I thought he got a little bit more separation. And, plug him in for 5, 6, 7 catches for over 100 yards and hopefully gets in the end zone here. So, and I think because they're moving Christian Kirk around a little bit, you're starting to see Fitz not only line up in the slot, but also on the outside. And when you look at that seam route, it's a really easy throw for Josh Rosen. And if the safety doesn't come over, Larry's just got to beat one-on-one coverage, and I'll take my chances on the 50-50 balls with Fitz. So I think he's feeling better. I think the rest helped him. But last week, or the last game, I thought that was the first time we were able to see separation. Now, obviously, early in the season, Bradford was ineffective. Teams are kind of bracketing him. They weren't allowing him just to get the catch and yards after catch. So this is encouraging, and along with David Johnson, what he did in the previous game.
We'll see what the Cardinals do offensively. Coming up on Sunday, 11 a.m. is the kickoff. 6:30 a.m. is the pregame coverage beginning on the Arizona Cardinals radio network. And if you need to know where to watch, listen, and follow the game, just head to azcardinals.com/game central. Also a great place on game day as well. Live blog with play-by-play updates during the game, scoring summary and box score, and video highlights as well. Again, that's azcardinals.com/game central. It is Cards Cover 2, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 3 p.m. here from the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center. We'll get to your questions via social media in just a bit. Again, that's hashtag Cards Cover 2 to get involved in the show. But right now, it's time to get to know your enemy, and for that, we check in with BJ Kissel. He covers the Chiefs for Chiefs.com. And BJ, 1, appreciate the time, and 2, I'm going to bury the lead a little bit here. And we all know about the Chiefs. Their offense is very, very good, but the defense, the numbers right now, it's a lot of points allowed. It's a lot of yards allowed, but you're getting after the quarterback. You're good on third down. So how do you reconcile what we're seeing in stats versus what we're seeing on the field this season?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because it's been one of the topics that everybody here has tried to figure out throughout the season because, as you guys say, like the stats only tell you part of the story, and context is really important with a lot of those, particularly in some of those early games where we did really well offensively, got up early, and then not that we went in any kind of a prevent defense, but particularly against like the Steelers, I think we had a quick 21-0 lead, and then you're not blitzing a lot, you're not showing your hand on a lot of things at that point. The end of the Chargers game early in the season also, I think they were playing a little bit of prevent there late in the game, and I think Rivers dumped it off to the running back and picked up about 70 yards on about 3 or 4 plays. So I think that kind of skews some of those numbers, but I think you hit the nail on the head. And some of the important categories that I know the coaches look at, and like third down and getting off the field in certain situations. I know that at one point when the games were within 7 points, they had one of the top defenses in the league. I think that was through like 4 weeks. So when the game's been tight or they really needed to make a stop, more often than not, they've got it. But there have been issues, particularly communication issues between the second and third level of defense that have been discussed both by the players and the coaches. They're trying to figure some of that stuff out. It'll be interesting to see what the case is on Sunday with Daniel Sorensen, a veteran safety who's been here, played a lot of snaps for this defense over the last few years. He was injured during training camp, had a tibia plateau fracture, and cost him the first 8 games of the season. He got activated last week, didn't play. He's been practicing this week. We don't yet know what his status will be for the game, but to get him back on the back end of that defense that with the safety position, Eric Berry hasn't played. Armani Watts got injured, and like I said, Sorensen got injured. At one point, most of our guys in the defensive backfield that were out there weren't with the team at training camp. So they're hoping to get some of those guys back from injury. Justin Houston's another one that'll be huge. He's been out the last few games as well.
All right, before we get into the offense, you mentioned Eric Berry. What is the time frame here in the second half of the season?
I think anyone's guess is as good as ours. When they've talked with him, when Coach Reed's talked with media, he said he's day-to-day. It's a pain tolerance thing for him right now, and we just every day we go to media just wondering if this is going to be the day. So that's kind of been the message that the team has put out. I know he's still around, he's still in meetings, and that his ability to be around younger players and mentor them, even before he was injured, this is something that Eric has always been really, really good about doing. I remember talking with guys back during phase 1. You guys know that from being around the team, and you're trying to search for stories during that time of the year. And Eric was staying after workouts for 2 and 3 hours with some of the younger safeties that wanted to, and that didn't just watch film with them. He was teaching them how to watch film. And these were guys who were borderline making the roster type guys. And this is when players come in for workouts, they can leave. But Eric was going out of his way to help those kids. And we're seeing a lot of that now. He's kind of like another coach over there. So obviously I was going to be happy when he gets back out on the field, whenever that is. But it's still nice to have him around, and you still see that benefit of having him around with the young guys having to kind of play catch up right now.
All right, let's go back to last year when the Chiefs decided to move up in the draft, and the Cardinals definitely had interest in Patrick Mahomes, and I'm sure there were a few other teams. Did you think quarterback was on the radar, or was that a surprise when it happened?
I don't think it was a huge surprise, but being a Chiefs fan my whole life and not having a quarterback draft in the first round since 1983, you never want to get too ahead of yourselves. But you knew that through the pre-draft process and a lot of the official interviews or the formal interviews, having guys come into the building, they had a lot of quarterbacks. A lot of the top quarterbacks came into the building. I believe Josh was one of them. And I know Pat was one of them because I saw him when he was here. And so when it happened, it was exciting. We had Alex. It seemed like the perfect situation to bring a quarterback in. That was kind of the messaging throughout when it first happened in all of last year, is that he's going to sit and learn from Alex. And obviously we've seen kind of the benefit of that. And I think as much as we talk about, the season that Pat's having, I think there always needs to be the caveat, and a lot of credit still needs to be given to Alex Smith because it's not just words. It's not just a cliche. The guy helped him. Like, he was really good to Pat and went out of his way a lot to help Pat. And we're seeing the benefit of that now. So I think Chiefs fans have been very good about understanding what Alex has meant to Pat's success this year.
We're catching up with BJ Kissel of Chiefs.com, covers the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm going to ask you to kind of look at the Chiefs offensively from a defensive perspective. How do you, since you've seen this team now for a long time, how would you go about trying to – you're not going to stop so far, no one has, but try to contain and make sure the Chiefs aren't scoring as many points as they have so far this season?
That's $1 million question. If I knew the answer to that question, I'd have a job as a defensive coordinator in our division maybe. But they're so – Andy Reid is so good at scheming things up. And there have been times, particularly the first game against Denver, and even the second game against Denver, they've done a pretty good job of, I don't want to say confusing or whatever you want to call it. They're playing a lot of press, there's a lot of man-to-man coverage, of just slowing them down a little bit. And then once they figured it out, they're so good at the line of scrimmage, at checking it, reading the coverage. Pat's so good at getting rid of the ball quickly. And I think for as much as made of Pat's ability to scramble around and the gunslinger and all the stuff that people saw him do at Texas Tech, he's been phenomenal getting the ball out of his hands. I think it's like 83% of his passes have been completed in less than 2.5 seconds. I was just talking about this with some of our producers getting ready for a lot of our pregame stuff, and that his yards per attempt in throwing the ball in less than 2.5 seconds is over 10, which is he's giving the ball to the right guys in the right situation. And when you've got guys like Kareem Hunt and Travis and Tyreek and Sammy and all these guys, you can quickly read the defense. You just get the ball out, and Pat said it forever. every time he talks to the media, he said, my job's pretty easy, just to read the defense, get rid of the ball quickly, and then let those guys go make plays. And he's been very, very good at that. Now, there are a handful of highlights that everybody's seen, but if you're going to try to stop this offense, you've got to figure out a way to make them uncomfortable. But they've got so many different ways to attack you. And we've seen over the last few games that Kareem Hunt has really stepped up in the running game or catching the ball out of the backfield. Spencer Ware has taken a lot of the third down duties, had 3 huge third down pickups in the passing game last week. So there's just a lot of different ways that they can attack you. They can be physical, Kareem Hunt, breaking tackles, jumping over guys that we've seen. It's been a lot of fun to watch, and it'll be interesting to see how teams that they face continue to evolve and try to attack what they're doing, because I don't think anybody's figured out that answer yet.
BJ, before we let you go, just the focus now on the Cardinals. What's been the talk this week as far as the Chiefs and what concerns them, or how they need to attack Cardinals either offensively or defensively to improve to 9-1?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time talking with the offensive guys about the Cardinals defense, and there's a lot of respect there. Chandler Jones' name came up several times with the coaches and players, and then the one young guy, I have to tell you guys, but Budda Baker. I remember, going into draft prep and watching him and watching what he was doing at Washington, and his name came up several times, even when the question wasn't necessarily about Budda Baker, that his name popped up, and he's gained the respect of a lot of these coaches and players for what he's able to do. Nkendici's name came up as well. I know there's some ties there with Chris Jones and Nkendici going back to Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and recruiting and all that, but every week in the NFL, you guys know this, that any team can beat any team, and you guys have a ton of talent there on the defensive side. And we haven't even mentioned Patrick Peterson, who I know has got a connection with our cornerbacks coach here, Al Harris, going back to their time, not necessarily the same time, but going back to Pompano Beach, they're from the same hometown. So you guys have a ton of talent. It's being praised heavily here when you talk to the coaches, whether it's during media or just even off to the side. They know they've got their work cut out for themselves, and for them, I think it's just sticking to the process, same stuff that you guys, I'm sure, hear. That they have their ways that they go about preparing for every single game, and I know they're excited about this one being at home. But yeah, it's going to be a tough one. I'm excited because every week it's a little something different. You want to see how defenses are going to try to attack this offense, and that's what I'm most looking forward to.
11 a.m. is the kickoff on Sunday, 6:30 pregame on the Arizona Cardinals radio network. Real quick, BJ, Cardinals, heads or tails, so we can snap this run of consecutive coin toss wins for the Chiefs?
I want no part of this answer because I'm not going to be the one to jinx this. I think that it was maybe the funniest moment this week in press conferences was Patrick Mahomes saying that's the most nervous he is all game. And now that it's been promoted and people have talked, we kind of knew it, and you tweeted out as it's happening. But that whole streak now has taken on a life of its own now that it's gone mainstream and everybody's talking about it. So I'm going to say this is the week I think that might break, but I'm not getting involved in this and trying to guess anything like that.
Yeah, and I think I read earlier this week it's actually 12 in a row if you go back to the preseason for the Chiefs. BJ, always a pleasure, and certainly looking forward to Sunday.
All right, thanks, guys, for having me on. We'll see you Sunday.
Good conversation there with BJ Kissel, Chiefs reporter for Chiefs.com. And in case you might have missed it at the top of the show, Robert Nkemdici ruled out for the ball game. Chad Williams ruled out as well. But Budda Baker, who was not on the practice field Thursday, moving around better on Friday, officially listed as questionable. But I think we all expect him to play. He certainly is needed in that secondary when you're looking about this Chiefs offense.
Yeah, listen. I mean, every time you talk to an opposing coach on a conference call, and sometimes you have to open the door, what do you see from the Cardinals defense? And they usually start with Patrick Peterson or Chandler Jones and Marcus Golden, and then they'll mention Budda Baker. I don't know if people realize, but Steve Keim moved up in the draft. Okay?
Kind of forgotten about.
Yeah, but he moved up 9 spots. They liked him that much. And the Bears, they made a decision that they were going to move down. They got a couple extra picks, and the Cardinals obviously gave those picks to them last year's draft, so you don't have to worry about that now. But a lot of people had a first-round grade on Budda Baker, maybe because of the position, or maybe there's a run on a certain position, D-line, O-line, towards the end of the first round. He dropped to the second round, and the Cardinals, they couldn't be happier the way he's performed. I really think he's got a bright future. Now, I know that all the focus is on the pass rushers and the shutdown corner, but they really got a good really high football IQ in Budda Baker. That was a great draft pick in the second round.
Cards Cover 2 coming to you from the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Of course, you can catch us on azcardinals.com/live video. Also on YouTube, just search Cards Cover 2. And, of course, if you ever miss a show, download it as a podcast via Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, or TuneIn. Still to come here on this Football Friday, your questions via social media, #CardsCover2. But we're going to get back into this Chiefs offense because I'm not a big fan of, throwing out a whole bunch of numbers, but the numbers with this Chiefs offense are staggering. And if you don't have to play them, it's a very fun offense to watch. And they are top 5 in nearly every major category: scoring, yards, passing, third downs, red zone success. So a lot of the pressure, if you will, or at least the game planning on how to not stop but contain this Chiefs offense on Sunday falls to defensive coordinator Al Holcomb. And, of course, for him, it all starts up front.
Yeah, it does start up front. In particular, trying to win on the line of scrimmage. To me, that's where it starts every week. But obviously in the run game, which is the first order of business, they have an effective run game. Our front 4 guys got to do a great job this week. And then obviously in the pass game, they've done a great job of protecting the quarterback, and his mobility is a challenge and an issue. So we've got to do a good job of having a plan of trying to keep him contained and mixing it up in terms of, the windows and what he's looking at. So it's important for us. The biggest thing with an offense like this is you got to make them earn everything that they get. You got to make them work, and we don't want to give up the big play. I know they've been a big play offense throughout the course of the season, but our goal is to keep it in front of us. And make them earn it, and mix up some of the looks and some of the things that we're doing, and like I said, just make them earn it and not beat ourselves more than anything because of an alignment issue, a vision issue, a depth issue, those types of things.
Everyone knows about Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Kareem Hunt, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, if healthy. Question on him as far as his availability on Sunday, but you got to be able to have time to throw the football. You got to be able to have rushing lanes to run through. And this offensive line, I don't think gets nearly enough credit because of all the numbers that the offense is putting up. But that's a solid offensive line, and you got to win in the trenches. And if the Cardinals can get that offensive line back on its heels, then all of a sudden Mahomes, who does well outside the pocket, but certainly you want a quarterback to feel uncomfortable regardless of who they are, even if they do feel good on the rollout.
Yeah, and there's sometimes he overthrows because, a lot of times when you have a strong long arm like that, you just want to needle it in there, but sometimes the velocity will just sail over a receiver's head. And I don't think weather's a factor unless, we get a little bit of rain. But he's completing close to 66% of his passes, averaging about 9.1 yards per attempt. That's a really good number.
It's basically a first down.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Exactly. And by comparisons, the Cardinals are averaging about 4 or 5. And we know that the offense obviously is trying to get on track. And I'm encouraged what happened in the previous game. You mentioned 29 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions. He's only been sacked 12 times. So he's a lot of guys were comparing him to Russell Wilson just because of his mobility. He can extend plays with his legs. And you have to stay on coverage. You can't let anybody get behind you. Because Trey Boston, I was listening when he said this during the week, that he's watching film and he said these receivers are wide open. So it's easier said than done. You got to cover maybe for an extra couple of seconds. Don't leave your receiver. Make sure you're in the right position. We could see a little man-to-man. We could see a little bit of zone. But I want to see him sit in the pocket and make some throws. And I think that's where maybe you can start putting a little pressure on him. Clearly, he's big enough where he's not going to look at the rush. You want to feel the rush. You don't want to look down at the rush because that means you're not looking down the field. I think he's got enough experience where he does that. But you're right about the offensive line. Eric Fisher, our top pick in the draft, he's been okay at left tackle. The guy that really gets the engine going is the right tackle, Mitchell Schwartz. He's one of the best players. He's getting a high grade from Pro Football Focus. The interior guys do a nice job keeping the pocket clean and open up holes for Kareem Hunt.
You heard Al Holcomb talk about the big play capability of this Chiefs offense. Tyreek Hill ranks first with 12 catches of 25 or more yards. And, of course, we all expect Tyreek Hill and Patrick Peterson to be the matchup to watch on Sunday, but it's Hill's speed that has captured Peterson's attention.
He's probably going to be the fastest guy I had the opportunity to go up against. Deshaun Jackson is another one that has that long gate speed, very, very that track style running. The thing with Tyreek, he's literally a cheetah. Like, he goes 0 to 60 in the blink of an eye, and I think that might be a Florida thing. I mean, I'm a little older now. I don't have that 0 to 60 like he does anymore. But I think it's a Florida thing. You want to be physical with those type of receivers. Those guys can't run a 4.3 within the first 5 yards if you have proper technique at the line of scrimmage. But the thing about him, he's also pretty quick to where he can slip and maneuver around press technique very, very well. So you have to be on your P's and Q's and just pray to God that Patrick throws him a bad ball.
Now, it's not like they just line him up on the outside and, run a post route, run as fast as you can, and he's going to throw it to you. They move him around. He's also involved on special teams. So it's just not like, okay, he's going to line up and you're going to try to cover him one-on-one, hip to hip. That's hard. So you're going to see him on the jet sweep. You're going to see him on a bubble screen, because what they want to do with him is they want to get him in the open field, because he has the ability with his speed to get to the outside, past the numbers, and run down the sideline. So it'd be interesting to see how much man-to-man they play versus zone. But again, it's just not like he stands there, breaks the huddle, and he runs down the field. They move him on the slant routes, very similar to Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice made a living off of Joe Montana, just taking the ball on a 5 or 7 stop drop and then a slant pass. The next thing you know, Rice is off to the races for a 60-yard touchdown. Very similar to that. But they do move him around, though. It'd be interesting how the Cardinals target him, because you have to avoid the big playability.
Brandon Natus, Cardinals manager of social media, joining us here on Cards Cover 2, and the transition from Patrick Peterson. Oh, wow.
Okay, I'll see how I pull this off.
This is, 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago for those watching the
for this
podcast. We got the helmet on top of Mike Jurecki.
Here we go.
Who was off on his
42.
Yeah, no way.
No?
By the way, that just looks absolutely huge. Like 3 times the size.
It's not that heavy, though.
No, that's good.
Here we go.
He was off on his prediction. For those who were unaware.
I had Fitz getting, 100?
Over 134 or 5 yards against the 49ers.
He got over 100, though.
But true to his word,
Thank you, Brandon.
Very well done.
I'm sorry that doesn't have the mics in there.
I don't want to use our new Bose headphones, so I'm going to take them off.
That's true. Very, very smart decision. Makes our producer very, very happy. Jim Omohundro, is good to know that the headphoons are not inside. Pull the chin strap down a little bit so we can get to there.
So we can't get the Bose headphones in there?
No, you're good. MJ doesn't need to hear you anyway. By the way, as we get the Bird Gang to sound off here on this Football Friday, the transition, by the way, from Patrick Peterson to Brandon Natus is a perfect one. I don't know if, MJ, you saw this in the locker room, but I believe this was captured on video, and if it was, it needs to be posted somewhere.
Follow my Instagram.
Brandon's doing an interview with Trey Boston. I have no idea what they're talking about. Patrick Peterson walks by, throws a towel right on target, right over Brandon's head. It was a good laugh.
We don't have video for that?
I don't know. We need to. By the way, you're going to ruin that mic. You keep the face mask running right into.
To listen to
there
you
we go.
Jesse has a video. Apparently,
we need that video.
Face. Or he didn't capture my face, but he has like partial of it.
Okay.
But yeah, we were talking to players, kind of getting stuff. Thanksgiving's coming up, so we try to prepare ahead of time. And Trey was talking about what he's thankful for. And Patrick's like, "Hey, where are you at in the interview?" We're like, "Hey, we're just getting started." And he thankfully it wasn't a towel that he had like used a lot of, because that would have been bad. But Patrick and I kind of take jabs back and forth. He usually wins.
Now, if being in the locker room with Brandon, now he has a relationship with all the players just because of social media and sometimes for their foundations and stuff. But man, they're always all over you in the locker room.
I'll say this, though. If you're getting picked on, that's okay. It's much like a coach. If you're getting yelled at, Shows they care.
Yeah.
If you're getting ignored, then all
No,
of a
it's
sudden
all in good fun,
oh,
but it's like
absolutely.
he's going over there and he appreciates their time and he's got to ask them questions and this and that. But it's just funny how they kind of give him a hard time.
Well, I chop on myself more than anyone else, so I'm good. I'm used to it. Love the self-deprecation stuff, so it fits right in.
All right, let's get into it.
to the
Bird Gang
questions.
signing off here on
Enough
this
about me.
Football Friday with Mike Jurecki wearing a Cardinals helmet.
I think it looks good.
Okay, this is great. So Cardinals 31, frequent asker of questions. We appreciate you. Which matchups are you guys most looking forward to this week?
Cardinals defense versus Patrick Mahomes.
I'll go a little bit deeper.
Doesn't need all 11.
Yeah, it's true, though. I mean, there's no easy matchup here, but I'm going to go Peterson on Hill and then Travis Kelce. To me, I know Kareem Hunt is a very effective back. I mean, he's exceeded expectations being picked in the 3rd round. If you can just contain him, he's going to get his yards. You just don't want him to break off a 40-yard run. But Kelce, I think they're going to put Hassan or Budda Baker on him. They could alternate. They could play a little zone. But obviously Tyreek Hill is a weapon, and putting Patrick Peterson on him, I don't know if he's going to completely shut him down, but hopefully you can contain him and avoid those big chunks of yards or big splash plays.
Now, I was seeing somewhere this week that Chiefs may put Tyreek Hill in the slot a little bit. Do you think Pat would follow him there too, or do you think that makes it tougher?
I think it's going to make it tougher now. See, that's what I was talking about earlier, how they move him around so much. He just doesn't.
But you don't have anyone. Well, okay, no one is as fast as Hill, but you don't have another DB that's as capable,
like
at
a
least I
Justin
think,
Bethel,
that can hang with the Tyreek Hill no matter where he is on the field. So I would make sure 21 is following.
And I didn't really mention him because I didn't think he would play, and Sammy Watkins did practice today. He's another weapon.
They're loaded. There's a lot of guys you got to cover there. So then the next question we have for you, and it kind of talks about the defensive backs and the defensive line as well. So if that defensive line really gets going, do you think that will lead to takeaways? And how do you think this defensive line matches up against their offensive line?
Their offensive line is very underrated, but if you can get a push and all of a sudden, you take away the run, that's always the number one goal of a defense. Take away the run, make them one-dimensional, even though that one dimension is very, very good as far as the Chiefs passing the ball. But you certainly would love to see some push up front, not from the outside, but some push up front, and all of a sudden maybe Mahomes has got to get the ball away a little bit quicker than he wants to.
Yeah, I would say pick your poison because if you
it's a little bit hard to take you seriously right now, MJ, with the helmet.
Looks good. I just think it's hard to pick your poison because you want to keep him in the pocket, but if he doesn't have where the Tom Brady rules where you could step up in the pocket and throw it down the field, then he's going to all of a sudden going to roll out and he's going to continue to hold the ball and he can throw the ball on the run. So I hope that they can. We know that Holcomb and Wilkes are going to blitz because they want to make him uncomfortable, but he has the ability to escape that, like Russell Wilson. So you better be careful there because you don't want him to extend a play and then he throws on the run and all of a sudden your DB's got their eyes in the backfield. So it'd be interesting, but I think for the most part, keep him in the pocket, make him make throws from there, and maybe you can get some interceptions.
And now you talk about all the weapons the Chiefs have, so it definitely plays the focus on the other DBs beyond Patrick. What have you seen from Bené Benwikere as the second corner as he's kind of emerged in that role?
I think it's been very solid. I mean, it's tough to when you're comparing an elite corner with everyone else, but since being inserted into that starting job with the struggles that Taylor was having, I think he's been very solid.
What I like about him, he could play inside, he could play outside, and he could play safety. And that's because he's played in Holcomb's and Wilkes' defense in Carolina. So I think he's ahead of the curve when it comes to learning the defense. I anticipate with Trey Boston coming back, you're going to have either 3 safeties or 3 corners out there. And so you look at Peterson, Taylor, and then Benwikere. And then if you want to bring in another safety and have just 2 corners and 4 safeties, that's where Benwikere, because I think Benwikere's experience in this defense gives him a leg up over Rudy Ford.
Now we're going to switch over to Instagram. We got a couple questions on there for you guys. This, I believe, is the first cold weather game for the Cardinals this season. Looks like it's snowing in Kansas City right now. So how do you think that will affect the team? And thanks, Morgan, for sending the snow videos.
I think it could be a factor. I mean, I believe it. Well, someone asked Coach Wilkes about it earlier on Friday, and he dismissed it. Hasn't been brought up at all, and I think that's a more of a psychological thing. You don't want to make it to be a big deal heading into the ball game. A little rain, a little snow, it shouldn't affect, because us in Arizona or West Coast, there's a lot of players in that locker room that aren't West Coast players. That should be able to handle some weather issues.
Yeah, if it was a blizzard, that'd be concerning. And they've talked about what cleats they're going to wear already, because supposedly in the morning it's going to be sunny, and then it's going to get cloudy in the afternoon, and you could see a little bit of either sleet, a little bit of rain, or snow as the night goes on and when it gets darker. So, but if they go to Green Bay and it's a snowstorm, I think that favors the home team. But I don't think it's going to affect them. They've practiced in the rain before. They practiced with a wet ball. I think it's the perfect football weather. I mean, it's not too hot, it's not too cold, where the body gets warm and you can go out there and just play.
Do you think it actually helps them because of how fast the Chiefs are, that with the tough track to cut and stuff?
I think the Chiefs are used to any. I mean, it's their field, it's their stadium, it's their weather. Yeah. I don't
think
so.
it affects the home team as much as it would the road team. But again, maybe just slight rain, maybe a little bit of sleet. They're not worried about it. And again, if they feel like the traction's not working, they can change their cleats on the sidelines.
And BA is on the call this week. One of the questions here is, what do the Cardinals need to do specifically to get back to what they've been doing the past couple of years in terms of success? What areas in particular?
Let's see what David Johnson does for an encore. If they can get the ball to the 31's hands like they did against San Francisco, Leftwich has had more time with the bye week to kind of figure out what has worked offensively. And looking back, and when David Johnson was David Johnson in 2016, I'd like to see him do a little bit more than what he's already done so far this season. But again, that starts with the offensive line and their ability to open up holes for him to run through.
Yeah, I don't want to make it so simple, though, but football is about blocking and tackling. I think it comes down to the offensive line, protecting Josh Rosen, being more consistent, opening up the holes for David Johnson, and then defensively, you can give points, or yards in the air, but you want to somewhat shut the run game down and put them in 3rd and long. So it really starts at both the offensive line and defensive line. And let's be honest, 50 wins in 5 years is nothing to slouch about. But the last 2 years, after they were 13-3, they were 7-8-1 and 8-8. And you got to give Arians and his coaching staff a lot of credit, considering they won 5 games last year with Blaine Gabbert and Drew Stanton at quarterback. So different scheme, different personnel, different coaching staff. So it's hard to compare. But it all starts up front, regardless of who the staff is.
And now, one guy who's actually was on both staffs, Byron Leftwich. This question coming in: how do you think Byron will approach this Kansas City defense?
I think you attack them right up the middle, and if they come with a blitz, you throw right into it. Now that's the best way to beat a blitz. But you got to have an offensive line that protects. They keep going back to the offensive line, but you can't go into this ball game scared or worried about trying to score a lot of points. Just move the football and take what you get.
Well, I love the play action. I love the way Rosen sells it. He fakes the ball to the running back. The running back has to run through the hole. Then he turns his back on the defense, and then usually the linebackers start getting sucked in there so he can throw it over their head. I would go to the edges. I would try to get, J.J. Nelson on a jet sweep or a bubble screen, Christian Kirk. I would try to work the edges just to use the entire field. I like the fact that the easiest way to get a first down is to run north and south, which means up the middle. But you got to get protection, and you got to get some holes to open up, and that really relies on guys like Mikey Potty, Justin Pugh, and then Mason Cole. But I want to use the entire field. I want to spread them out a little bit and let Josh Rosen. And now we could see some RPOs or zone reads where Rosen's got to make a decision. Does he hand it off based on where the defensive end is? Does he take it and try to roll out to his right or left where you cut the field in half? So I think Leftwich wants to open up this offense a little bit, but he doesn't want to put too much on Josh's plate.
Final question here comes on the defensive side of the ball. Dayon Buchanan, we saw him get a lot more reps last time out. How many reps do you think he'll get this game? Do you see him starting? Do you see him playing a lot?
With Trey Boston coming back and more DBs because of the offensive weapons, as well as he played against San Francisco, I just think the matchup is going to mean that he's on the sideline. You might see him for a snap or two, Especially maybe if Hassan Reddick struggles in coverage, specifically looking at Travis Kelce, then maybe you try someone else, but I don't think he sees nearly as much snaps as he did against the 49ers.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I think he's earning the trust of the coaching staff, and he's come a long way from, obviously, when he had the setback in training camp with the ankle injury. So maybe use him on first down. But again, you just don't know if they're going to run the ball or throw it, and if they have a fullback in the game or 2 tight ends, then they're kind of tipping their hand. But again, guys like Sammy Watkins and Tyreek Hill can win one-on-one matchups on the other side. So they got their work cut out there. But I just think it's going to be difficult to completely shut them down. You just hope to contain them and force them to kick field goals. Again, easier said than done.
All right, guys.
I survived.
Appreciate it,
and
Brandon.
I don't have a headache.
Such a good sport there, MJ, wearing the Cardinals
I'll get him back
helmet.
at some point. No, listen, he stepped up the following week, surprised us, named all 19 in order, and I was impressed with that.
You going to wear this on Monday?
Do we have any more bets going on?
No,
I'm just asking.
Predictions, not bets.
I'm just asking, is this now part of the Mike Jurecki wardrobe here on Cards Cover 2? Do a show wearing a helmet.
I don't think so.
Yeah, if we win, I think that's a good call.
Yeah.
At least Monday.
If they were able to pull off the upset, I'll wear it like all next week.
All right, there you go. You heard it right here on this Football Friday. Brandon, again, appreciate and thank you, everyone, for your involvement in the show using the hashtag Cards Cover 2 as we put a wrap on this Football Friday edition of Cards Cover 2. Special thanks to Tim Delaney, Jim Omohundro, Devin Henry, Jeremy Schnell, plus Grant Greeley, Jonathan Hayward, Jesse Aranda, and Jackson Sipes. For Brandon Natus, Mike Jurecki wearing the helmet, I'm Craig Rialou as we get you hyped here on this Football Friday. One last preview, one last promotion. Let's get you hyped for Week 10, Cardinals at the Chiefs.
Perhaps some important baby steps were made the last time the Cardinals took the field. After all, a rookie center snapped the ball to a rookie quarterback who threw the winning touchdown to a rookie wide receiver.
Rookie to take the lead!
The Rooks better put their big boy pants on this weekend in Kansas City to keep up with the top scoring offense in the NFL at one of the loudest stadiums in the sports world. The Big Red D will have all they can handle with quarterback phenom Patrick Mahomes and company. It may prove to be their toughest test all season. They'll need to play like they did in the fourth quarter against the Niners for all 60 minutes to upset the home team. Cardinals, Chiefs, Game 9 of the 2018 season. Sunday.